Let's move on to main topic number one. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Saatvik Maddineni, who writes, tell me that does not look like a Vulcan first name. Okay, coolest name.
It does look like Vulcan first. That's a very
Saatvik.
cool name.
Hey, John and Rob. As post-credit scenes are getting more popular these days in big-budget franchises such as the MCU and many other franchises, how likely do you think we will see a post-credit scene in the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die? Thank you, and have a great day. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, contrary to popular belief, the MCU did not create the concept of post-credit scenes. Not in the least. They did popularize it very much, but post-credit scenes have been around a long time, starting off kind of in the form of blooper reels that play after the movie. Was it Smokey and the Bandit? Was it Smokey and the Bandit that had like a blooper reel of Burt Reynolds and Sally Fields afterwards? I think it was. And then, of course, Ferris Bueller's Day Off had like a post-credit scene.
Yes,
they've been around for a while. But you're not wrong in saying they've become more and more popular, and they absolutely have become more and more popular as time goes on. So we're seeing them, like, post-credit scenes even pop up in seemingly standalone movies from time to time. So the question becomes, why not something for James Bond? Could a James Bond film possibly be one that could have a post-credit scene? I would suggest that we will not get a post-credit scene in the James Bond film, Rob, and I'm going to give you two reasons why I think that. Reason number one is, generally speaking, James Bond films don't often, they don't often flow from one movie to the next. In the Daniel Craig era, there has been a little bit more connective tissue between the films than in previous eras, yes. But generally speaking, that's not really what Bond films do. The second reason why I don't think we're going to get something like that at the end of No Time to Die is because I think this is Daniel Craig's final Bond film. When we come back to James Bond, there's going to be a new James Bond, and it's going to be a total new story and all that kind of stuff without, I believe, any connective tissue to the previous one. Now, contrary to popular belief, Rob, a lot of people are saying, Lashana Lynch, she's the new James Bond. She's going to be... No. Listen, she just has James Bond's employee number 007 because he's retired. That's it. The next James Bond is going to be James Bond. And as Barbara Broccoli has said, James Bond is a guy. That's what she said. She said James Bond's always going to be a guy. Moving forward, he's going to be a guy, all that kind of stuff. So, Rob, for those reasons and a couple of other smaller ones, I think, no, we're not going to get a post-credit scene. What do you think?
Well, I just asked On Her Majesty's Secret Service James Bond, George Lazenby.
That looks awesome.
What he thinks. And he said no, because it's Daniel Craig's last film, as you said, as Bond. And the Bond films have always played fast and loose with continuity, as he is a prime example of that. And who knows what's going to happen next? We might jump around years, if not decades. So who's to say what's going to happen? And George Lazenby knows what it's like to be Bond once and then never be Bond again. So I trust his judgment, and he says no.
And he says, well, let me ask you this, though, Rob. Let's take the fact that this is Daniel Craig's final film out of it. Let's assume that maybe he was going to do another one. Is the James Bond franchise one that the concept of post-credit scenes would fit into, or is that just not a good fit for the Bond franchise? How do you see that?
Well, they've only really ever made one direct sequel. I mean, Quantum of Solace literally picks up right where Casino Royale left off, but they've never really done that. I mean, you could say that Diamonds Are Forever On Her Majesty's Secret Service could have had a post-credit scene because it picks up with Diamonds Are Forever, but it's a different Bond. And I don't think they ever really know. They're not planned that far in advance. And to have the kind of post-credit sequence that we're talking about, whether it's an MCU post-credit sequence, you have to have some planning and foresight and know what you're going to do. And I suspect, again, I'm basing this on nothing but conjecture. The Bond franchise has been the Broccoli family business since 1962. Barbara Broccoli and her stepbrother, I guess, Michael Wilson, have been controlling the Bond franchise, and he's like, in his late 70s. And I wouldn't be surprised if after this, the 25th official Bond film, they hang up their spurs, and maybe sell the franchise rights to somebody else, because 25 movies, Daniel Craig ending his tenure, Do they want to start over again? I mean, the Craig franchise has lasted. It'll be almost 15 years since Daniel Craig took over. Actually, 14 years, and it's like another 14 years. Michael Wilson will be into his 90s. And who wants to be globetrotting and producing $250 million movies? They got to enjoy the rest of their lives. So maybe this is the last Bond film under their purview. You never know. I mean, it's been 5 years since Spectre.
Yeah, I don't think that. See, I think you make some very, very good points. I think you make some very compelling points. I still don't think they're going to let this go. I think there's something, listen, in a world where all the franchises are controlled by the big studios, they are very unique in that space.
Yes.
And that, you know what, as individuals who aren't studios, they control Bond. And remember, they just recently had a big bidding war for the rights to distribute the Bond films. And this could be a legacy play. Like, there's something sexy about just saying, I own Bond. I mean, there's just something sexy about that. And that becomes, their ownership becomes something they can pass down if they want. So
right.
I think you make some really good points about that, and you could very well be right. I got a feeling if it was me, I'm never letting that go. I am never letting that go if it's me. And I don't think you would either. I don't think you would ever let go of the rights of Bond.
I don't know, man. 25 movies, though. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, John. And you gotta know
Kenny Rogers just passed away. That's a nice reference.
I know. You got to know when to walk away. I was thinking Casino Royale, Texas Hold'em. But I think at some point, how far do you go? I think rebooting the franchise, unless Barbara Broccoli has, and she very well might. I mean, she's one of my heroes. Can you imagine, John? There's a woman in the world whose job it is to produce James Bond movies. I mean, come on. That's like the greatest job ever. And she might have something, it might be very exciting for her now to reboot the Bond franchise again because they keep doing it and it keeps working. I mean, if you look at the track record of them replacing, I mean, sometimes like Timothy Dalton will only get to play two or George here, he only gets one shot, but his film is well regarded. And I think that maybe she has a plan. Maybe she wants to have somebody else come in and play Bond, and that will reinvigorate the franchise yet again. But who knows?
All right, guys, the question here for you is, what do you think is going to happen at the end of No Time to Die when we finally get to see it in November, right? November's when we get to see No Time to Die. All of the things
hopefully,
working out.
John.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. But when we do get to see it in November, hopefully, and the end credits roll, do you think there's going to be a post-credit scene? I don't think so. Maybe you guys do. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.